Hello everyone, welcome to Past Preserver. Today we're going to be finding out if the 1930 Ford Model A is going to fire up or not. Sorry to keep you guys waiting on this. I know some of you have been wanting to see this thing fire up, and believe me, I have been too. But I've been running into issues with missing parts. This motor was just missing a bunch. Ended up getting some bolts here and there, had to get the distributor figured out. Water pump, this here is not going to stay around. And the big reason why is because of this fan. Look at this. You don't want one that the magnet will stick to. How this is built, it's kind of a bent over piece of steel and it's somewhat riveted together, and yeah, they're known for blowing apart, and that destroys your radiator, your hood, whoever's standing next to it, because this thing is just flinging around at a high speed, and they're known to get little cracks that become big cracks, and then they apparently violently blow up. So that's getting replaced at some point. I think we'll run with it for now. I hope that it's not a mistake. Hopefully not foreshadowing. As for the water pump, I put a new seal in here. Everything seems to be fairly tight. Well, it's loose because it's not bolted on. I got to get some bolts for it. I re-greased everything. You're supposed to use a special water-based grease for this bit. I didn't quite have that. I had some marine lube that's technically water-based stuff, so it's lubed up good in there. We're just going to test run it. Then normal grease goes in this front fitting. We got a distributor. I kind of went over this in another video, but considering this is the big video on this one. Got a new distributor cap, rotor. Down in here we have an updated points kit. That pretty much, don't drop that. I'm getting this close to starting. I don't have to order another one. Allow you to use new points. You got your little adjuster back here. I set this to about 18 thousandths. On this top cap here, you'll notice there's a gap. I set these at 24 thousandths, and I had to file it down on the inside. This rotor was coming around and hitting them. Just make sure you're holding this flush down. There's like a little notch up here that everything locks down on. You can put your cap back on it. Oh, also, I bought these off the internet. These things, and they're just a little too short. They're supposed to be for a Model A, but they're, I don't know, maybe they thought your plugs were a little taller than what these are. But that's how long these should be. This is an original one. And as you can see, these don't get to have that much of a bend in them. Yeah, they're pretty loose on there. Went online, I found a decent looking used starter. It had a little plunger thing on the top. Didn't have the rod, but I'll have to get that eventually. But be good enough to turn it over, I think. Got a pulley here. We're going to go ahead and install that real quick. I got to take this radiator off. I did get the right little hold down to the springs and the pieces of rubber that go underneath, so that's all correct. I still need to get a filler neck and an oil cap for this thing, but we finally did get some oil in it. And no, I'm not going to tell you what I threw in it. I'll make you guess. Honestly, it's kind of irrelevant at this point anyway, because I'm going to run it for so long and then swap it out, because it's all break-in oil as it is. Someone probably looked at this and said, well, that's not the right thing. No, it's not. It's actually a spring. There was a hook on each end. I cut them off. It threaded in there just right. So we've got something to kind of keep the wire off the engine. But that's going to go up to the coil, which would be mounted on the firewall instead of down here, but it'll work for the minute. I have the muffler hooked up. I want to put a bead of sealant around here, but until then, we're just going to leave it. So we might have a bit of an exhaust leak, but everything's hooked up. This bracket back here is supposed to kind of go on either side and clamp from what I could see online. Everybody who did videos on this had the body on top and you couldn't really see what was going on. But it just kind of pinches in the middle, and as you can see, that's not going anywhere. Hopefully I'm not right. We want to drive this down the road someday. I did get the steering column all freed up. As you can kind of see, it's turning, but we have the wrong steering wheel. This here has a little keyway in it, and that is correct for a 30, but not correct for what this shaft is. This shaft is actually for like an earlier model. This is also called a 7-tooth. There's also a 2-tooth version that has multiple adjustments in different spots. This one only has one adjustment, and that's to adjust the side play of this shaft. Everything else is just kind of straight bearings. I did re-grease this, resealed it, well, sealed it, RTV'd it, nothing's leaking. We'll see how that goes. If nothing else, I'd probably want to change this out at some point, but with a newer style. I did get the Advance for the Sport loosened up. It's still a little tight, and the throttle moves a lot easier. Thankfully, you don't have to move the Advance a whole lot once you get it running. And there'd be a rod that'd shoot up over here and a rod that would shoot kind of down here. I'm missing the whole gas pedal assembly. There's like a spring in there to help return it. So I got to be careful when we start this that this thing doesn't want to run away on me. The clutch, I don't have the right linkage. I tried throwing that on there. It does not give me enough throw. It's not adjusted correctly. This is just way too long. It needs to be shorter so it can come up further. Same thing with the brake. Actually, I do have the rod for the brake. It goes back here. Your brake light's there. You have a couple different cross members. That further back one's for your parking brake that would be here. This brake pedal here goes straight back to this one. There's more rods going straight off and they hook into these. And there's your brakes. Something simple. Now I did have this radiator mounted on here. I think I'm just going to take it off for the time being. I'm going to seal this up so there's not a giant water leak. I'm just going to throw a garden hose in here. I seen someone else tape a vacuum hose down here and direct the water away and run water directly through the block. I think we're going to do that. I don't want to get water down here because I don't have a dipstick either. I'm going to try and plug that off. So I'm going to take this radiator off just so it's out of the way and we don't mess it up. We won't worry about running the fan because I'm a little sketched out with some of the horror stories I've been reading on that fan. And hopefully here soon we'll have this thing running. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I figured I better do a little backstory before we fire this thing up. It's tired of waiting too. Get me running. It's probably been, what, 13, 23, what, 11, 12, 13 years probably since this thing ran, if it even ran when the guy took it apart. Looking at some of the parts that I got with it, I'm wondering if it was even a runner then. So it has been rebuilt. Oh, little backstory. Some people have heard this already. I'm sure you're sick of it. The guy passed away, had it rebuilt, had new cam, new timing gear, looked like crankshaft been gone through, new babbitt, 80 thousandths over on the pistons. You know, this motor's been totally gone through. The guy put it back in here. Transmission looks like it might have been gone through too. I found some boxes of bearings and stuff that looked about right, and that thing looks pretty good if it hadn't sat with no oil in it. He threw both these in here and never put oil in it, so led to it being a little locked up. And I've had this thing about 7 months now. That's kind of a record for me. Normally I drag something in and within a week or so I have it up and running. That there got stuck in a shed for a while before I could get to it. That's the only reason it took so long. But generally when it's in my direct line of sight, it runs within like a week. But this one here has been a little bit longer than that. So here we go. Well, I'm having a heck of a time getting this nut off with my little ratchet. Sometimes you need to adapt. Or totally fail. Time for the big gun. Would you believe it? The compressor is running. How quiet it is in here. I love it. See what we get. And that's what your crank goes into. It's made to where the little pins would go one way and you could push it, but once the engine starts, it'll kick it back. It'll rise off this incline and kick it off. Gonna throw a little bit of Tin Man on it. Hopefully I don't turn into one. Well, I'm sure somebody's laughing at me. I'm gonna have to lift the front of this motor up to get this in there. Dang it, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Well, thankfully it looks like I just gotta take, hopefully, these 2 bolts out and the one's holding that, and maybe the transmission will just pivot with it. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, I'm gonna have to sit and think on this one. Maybe look at a video. Probably should have done that in the first place. I didn't think that's why they sell 2-piece versions. I was wondering what the difference was. I just didn't put together how long that was going to be, because I really hadn't seen one other than that broken one over there, and I don't think it was this long. Hold on. Nah, I guess it was. As you can see, it's had a little bit of a breakage. So, yep. On to the next thing. I promise, we'll get it running in this video. I'm just got some I's to dot and T's to cross. Well, we can at least get one thing I ordered in. This here holds the distributor in place. It's got this little nub that sticks out, and there's a groove in here that it has to hook into. Why they just couldn't have made it something normal, I don't know, but it's definitely a different way. Also, this nut, it seems to be a 9/16. You run this in all the way, and then you tighten that. I might want to get to a screwdriver. As you can see, the distributor is good and tight. Make sure it is. And then we'll tighten down this lock nut on the outside. Maybe. If the wrench I grabbed wants to work. I want to finger loose it too. And I think we're gonna call that good. That distributor should be in place. Much like that. Well, the cap's gonna wiggle a little bit, but the rest of it won't. Well, looks like we've got 2 bolts on each side, and the way this sits on top of here, we have a lip over the edge. So if I take those out, this thing shouldn't drop. So we'll take those 4 out, get a jack under this nose here, take these 2 out on this U, and then we'll jack it up some, and we should be able to slide that on there. I hope. I will say it's kind of tight getting the socket down in there, but we got them out on all 4 sides. Thankfully, this thing will just sit down. There's tabs overhanging the front as well, so I got those 2 bolts out. And a couple of those are kind of loosey-ish. They weren't like super tight. I need to look up what the torque specs need to be, but I think 3 of them were okay, and maybe 1 was really loose. Anyway. So I'm going to do probably the wrong thing and jack up on this oil pan here. It feels like someone else has already. It's a little dinged up, but look at this. She's coming up, and we here shortly should be able to slide this pulley on. Now, I gotta look up and make sure there's not a slot or anything that this is supposed to index into, because I don't know why else there would be a slot here. Boy, that really has to come up high to get on there, doesn't it? Might have to get a block of wood under it. Or my jack is getting low on oil. Looks like it should be enough. Well, I'm going to fight with that. Well, I don't see any reason for the slot. No one's mentioned anything. But I'm just kind of beating it by hand on here. And it's slowly going. Okay, I'm going to save you guys a lot of headache before we get too far into this. There is a special keyway right here on the end of the crankshaft. You're going to have to basically take this cover off in order to see it. I really should have looked at a video before trying to do this, but that's part of the fun. kind of. All right, so you take all these bolts across the front off, and then there's 4 on the bottom that connect to the oil pan. Then you want to throw this back on, crank it around till you got that up. Your keyway, then we got to take that off, and we can slot this in like that, and then we'll put the cover back on. I got a new gasket for this, so I'm going to throw that on, and we'll get it done. Now, while we're in here, this is the dimple. I might need to make that a little bigger because you could barely feel it, for your timing mark. So that there's when you're at top dead center on number 1. When you push in on this little guy, you take this out, turn it around, and crank the motor in, and when you hit that little dimple, it's supposed to go in, and you know you're at top dead center. So that's what that's for. Oh yeah, I'm just going to get this done. It's hot in here, and I went further into this than I wanted to. Oh, it's never something just quick and simple. Let's just about pull the engine to change the pulley. Well, there we have it on. I just got to get this cover back on, the engine bolted back down, the gasket. Then we'll be getting close to ready to getting this thing running when parts come in. I'm done for this today. I wasn't planning on basically pulling the engine. Shoot, all we needed to do was unhook the transmission. We could have pulled this whole thing out of here. Well, here we go. It's a new day. I got this all put back on. Boy, that was a pain in the butt trying to get that all lined up. I don't even think I did a video on it. Basically, I had to loosen these bolts. There's actually a piece of rubber here. Oops, don't lose my power. Yeah, forget to hook that back up, and then it won't start. I'll be like, why won't you fire up? Trying to get these bolts lined up was a bit of a pain. I had to jack it up, let it down, take these out. I kind of left the bottom one and adjusted it, hammered around, finally got them lined up. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. You got to pull the motor and jack the front up and about take that front cover off this guy here and reseal it just to find a little pin in here. And this was really tight going on. I cleaned it up some, but it was still really tight. They do make a 2-piece pulley. They're kind of known more to go apart. Hopefully this one stays together pretty good because it's a single. And the 2-piece pulley, it's like the shaft and then the pulley itself are 2 different pieces. So you can just slip that on, slip this on, and bypass this. All I needed to do was build this engine just a slight bit further back. But oh well, we're about ready to fire it up here. We're going to hook up our power wire. I have a drop tank. This is the Gravely gas tank, kind of gravity feeding straight into it. There might be too much line there, we'll find out. Garden hose, I'm just going to hope that it doesn't get water in the oil, because I was trying to do this, but I can't find any duct tape to really hook it up. I was wanting to divert it. And we'll see if she'll fire up here. Got water flowing through it. That probably won't stay, but keep it a little cool. Where do you guys want to be? Let's put you back here at the exhaust. Get you an exhaust clip of the first start. Maybe that'd be the thing to do. Sadly, the tailpipe's at a weird spot, but let's see what happens. In neutral. Neutral. Choke out. Timing a little bit. It's getting a little hot. Uh-oh, killed it. Didn't like that. Not sure what happened. Ooh, not loving that. Why does that look wet? Gasket leak going on, unless it's just no. She seems pretty happy. I got a little bit of an oil leak there, but that means we got oil pressure. I gotta get something plugging that up. Well, dang it, my cover blew off and this blew off and we got water down in the engine a little bit. I didn't want to run it too long like that. I don't think it did too bad. It was just splattering a bit. But guess I should have went and found some tape. I just really wanted to hear this thing run today. But don't think any damage is done. I was going to change this oil out anyway after we got it started, mostly because there's Babbitt and everything and it all needs to kind of break in. So we're going to change this oil out anyway. We do seem to have oil pressure, which is good. I have a bolt kind of threaded in here, but she's got a little bit of a leak to her right there. So we're going to have to get a proper cap on that, or maybe an oil pressure gauge. Everything seems okay. I see a little bit of seepage around the head, which kind of concerns me. On this side, right there's a little damp. Fresh head gasket, and we should not have any water here unless that was splattered up from there, which I guess it could have been. But we're going to retorque these head bolts and make sure they're all down where they need to be. I tightened these down a bit more, and now that seepage is gone on the side of the block, so easy fix, thank goodness. Dang it. Nothing seems to be leaking out the front though. This didn't seem to be leaking any. That's dry, which is really good. So I'm pretty happy with that. We're just going to let her cool down. She's a runner. we can put more money into her. It sounds really good. That muffler sounds great. We got a little bit of an exhaust leak up here, nothing a little sealant can't fix. Looks like the carburetor might have a drip to it. Something was dripping. I don't know. I could have sworn I saw something drip. Oh, I'm looking way over there and seeing a drip. Okay. Oh, that looks dry, other than the, you know, splatter from the garden hose. So I think we're in good shape to continue on. So that's going to do it for this video. Leave a like, hit subscribe. Hopefully here soon. I'm sorry I didn't do a bunch of videos on this, but I just kind of need to get it to this point. I'm supposed to get like 104 today. Right now we got a nice cool breeze to work with, but once that sun gets up there, it's supposed to get really hot. So that means it'll be even hotter in here. We're going to clean up the shed a bit because it's just become a mess. I started putting tools away already. But we're going to be getting in on putting the body on the frame there. I got to get some blocks of wood ordered that go up underneath here. They go like right there, and I think there's one in the middle here. So get that done, get the bolts, drop this on there. And then we'll make the floors up. I got some wood to make the floors with. Figure out a roof, and hopefully here soon we'll have this thing in a driving state. I still got to get some parts. Got a lead off a guy. Went to a car show the other day. There should be a video on that, either coming soon or up already. It was just a quick little blip. I think there were like 10, 15 cars there. But I got a lead on someone that might have some A stuff for sale, so that's a big plus. So hopefully here soon we'll get this thing up and going. I want to thank you for watching. Leave a like, hit subscribe, and have yourselves a great day.